The morning after the dinner, I woke with cautious hope. Last night hadn't been perfect, but Jeff had defended me, if only faintly, when Sally called. It was a flicker, a crack in the wall she'd built between us. I clung to that as I made coffee, imagining ways I might widen that crack. But by mid-morning, I realized Sally had been up even earlier, plotting her countermove. The doorbell rang. When I opened it, a sharply dressed woman stood there with a leather portfolio tucked under her arm. She introduced herself as Caroline, a financial advisor. "I have an appointment with Jeff and his mother," she said with a practiced smile. My stomach dropped. Appointment? With his mother? Jeff appeared behind me, looking awkward. "Maria, Mom thought it would be good to get some professional advice. About our finances." I froze. Our finances? Without even asking me. He shifted uncomfortably. "I was going to tell you. It's just," she said it would help clear the air. And just like that, Sally swept into the foyer, practically glowing with triumph. "Maria dear, you'll join us, of course. We want transparency." Transparency. From the woman who'd been twisting every shadow into suspicion. I forced a smile and followed them into the living room. Though inside I was seething, Caroline spread her papers across the coffee table. "Now, Jeff, your mother mentioned some concerns about stability and shared assets. She suggested we review what you and Maria have together, accounts, debts, investments, and consider measures to ensure long-term security." Sally sat primly on the sofa, hands folded in her lap, eyes shining like a cat watching its prey. "This isn't about control," she cooed. "It's about protecting you both. God forbid anything ever happened. Illness, divorce, unexpected expenses. Don't you think it's wise to be prepared?" Divorce. She dropped the word like a knife between us. Jeff glanced at me, guilt flickering in his eyes. Maybe she has a point. It wouldn't hurt to just look. I wanted to scream. But Claire's advice echoed in my head. Don't play her game. Speak louder than her whispers. So I steadied my voice. "Jeff, I'm not afraid of planning for the future. But planning together means both of us deciding when and how, not your mother arranging it behind my back." Caroline looked between us, sensing the tension. "Perhaps we could start with something simple, an outline of your joint accounts?" My pulse spiked. The apartments. My secret. If this advisor dug deep enough, if Sally pushed far enough, the truth I'd been hiding would surface right here, in the middle of Sally's ambush. I swallowed hard. "Jeff, can I speak to you for a moment?" "Alone." Sally frowned. "Oh, Maria, there's no need." "Alone," I repeated, sharper than I intended. Jeff hesitated, then stood and followed me into the kitchen. The moment the door swung shut, I hissed, "Do you see what she's doing? She's not helping. She's setting traps." He rubbed his temples. "Maria, she's just trying to protect us." "No," I shot back. "She's trying to control us. And you're letting her." His shoulders sagged. "Then tell me the truth. What are you so afraid of her finding?" My breath caught. The inheritance pressed against my lips like a confession begging to be freed. But fear held me back. Not yet. If I told him here, now Sally would win. She'd spin it, poison it, make it another wedge. So I shook my head. "I'm afraid of losing us. That's all." He studied me, searching for cracks. Finally, he sighed. "Fine. We'll keep it simple today. No deep dives. But Maria, eventually, everything has to be on the table." I nodded, throat tight. Back in the living room, Sally's smile had sharpened. She knew she hadn't won outright, but she'd forced me into retreat. Caroline packed her papers with a polite promise to revisit things later. Jeff thanked her. Sally thanked her twice. As the door closed, Sally turned to Jeff with a theatrical sigh. "I only want what's best for you, sweetheart. Sometimes, we can't see the dangers until it's too late." Her eyes cut toward me on that last line, daring me to break. I met her gaze head-on, steady, defiant. "The only danger here is letting fear run our marriage. And I won't live like that." For once, she didn't reply, just tightened her lips and walked away. Jeff lingered, torn between us, but his silence spoke volumes. That night, lying in bed, I replayed everything. The ambush, the trap, the near exposure. My secret was balancing on a knife's edge now. One wrong move and Sally would slice it open. The war wasn't just about Jeff's trust anymore. It was about survival. Financial, emotional, marital. And as much as fear whispered that I couldn't win, a stronger voice whispered back, then fight smarter. Because Sally had made one mistake tonight. She'd show me just how far she was willing to go. And now I knew I had to be ready to go further. The next morning, I woke with a knot in my chest. Sally's ambush with the financial advisor had rattled me to my core, but it also clarified something. She was willing to bring outsiders into our marriage to dig, pry, expose. If I kept waiting, she'd succeed. I couldn't let her get there first. Jeff was in the shower when I slipped downstairs, poured myself coffee, and pulled out my notebook again. Pages of messy scribbles stared back at me. Reminders, half-baked plans. None of it was enough. What I needed now wasn't just emotional resolve. I needed knowledge. Leverage. So I called Claire. She answered on the first ring. How bad is it? I explained in clipped whispers. The advisor, Sally's smug little jabs, the near exposure of the apartments. Maria, listen to me, Claire said firmly. You can't keep skating on thin ice. You need to know exactly where you stand. Legally. Financially. If Sally wants to play hardball, you can't walk in blind. The thought of involving a lawyer or financial expert made my stomach churn. But she was right. Do you know anyone? I do, Claire said. A family lawyer. Quiet, discreet. You can meet him without Jeff knowing for now, just to understand your options. I hesitated. It felt like betrayal, sneaking around my husband. But wasn't I already forced into secrecy? Sally had dragged us here, not me. Give me his number, I whispered. By the time Jeff came downstairs, I'd tucked the paper with the lawyer's name into my notebook. He looked tired, hair damp, tie hanging loose around his neck. Morning, I offered trying for casual. He nodded, but there was distance in his eyes. I have a meeting later. Mom's coming with me. The knot in my chest pulled tighter. To your work meeting? She knows someone who might help with an investment. She just wants to sit in. I forced a calm smile, though inside, alarm bells screamed. Sally wasn't just circling our marriage. She was inching into his professional life now. Jeff, don't you think this is a lot? Her being involved in everything. He stiffened. She's helping. That's all. Helping. That word again. I bit my tongue before saying what I wanted. She's not helping. She's replacing me. Instead, I kissed his cheek and let him go, though my heart ached. The moment the door shut, I grabbed my coat. I met Claire's lawyer friend, Daniel, in a quiet office downtown. He was kind but direct, exactly what I needed. Tell me what's going on, he said, pen ready. So I told him. About the inheritance. About Jeff not knowing. About Sally's relentless meddling. Daniel listened carefully, then leaned back. Maria, your grandmother's apartments are legally yours alone, as inherited property. Unless you've mingled them with marital assets, Jeff has no claim, at least not directly. But secrecy can complicate things emotionally, even legally, if divorce ever became a factor. The word divorce hung in the air like smoke. I don't want that, I said quickly. I don't want Sally controlling this. I need to know where I stand. And now you do, Daniel replied gently. My advice? Document everything. Keep financial records separate. And if you ever decide to disclose, do it on your terms, not under pressure. I nodded slowly, relief mixing with fear. So legally I'm safe. Legally, yes, he said. Emotionally? That's a different battle. When I left his office, I felt a strange steadiness. For weeks, I'd been stumbling in the dark, terrified of exposure. Now, at least I knew the ground under my feet. But as I drove home, that steadiness wavered. Because Sally didn't care about laws or documents. She cared about perception. Control. If she couldn't find ammunition in Jeff's heart, she'd invent it. And Jeff was slipping further into her grasp. When I walked into the house, I found Sally already there, perched on the couch like royalty. She looked me over, eyes sharp. Out shopping, dear? She asked sweetly. I smiled back, calm, controlled. Something like that. Her eyes narrowed just slightly, as if she could sense I wasn't as rattled as before. And for the first time, I felt something almost like confidence. She might control the stage for now, but I was building my own plan backstage. Quietly, carefully. And when the curtain rose again, I wouldn't be the weak one in her play. I'd be ready. 2 days later, I learned what Sally sitting in at Jeff's meeting really meant. It was just after lunch when Jeff called. His voice was tight-clipped. "Maria, I might be late tonight. Things are a little complicated at work." I leaned against the kitchen counter, heart thudding. Complicated how? He hesitated. Mom had some thoughts about a potential client. She spoke up in the meeting. Loudly. It didn't go over well. I closed my eyes, pressing a hand to my forehead. Of course she did. "Jeff, why did you let her go in the first place?" She insisted. Said she knew the man personally. I thought maybe she'd help. Help. That cursed word again. I softened my tone, not wanting to push him further into defensiveness. And did she? A beat of silence. Not really. The client walked out. My boss wasn't happy. My stomach twisted. Sally hadn't just been meddling in our marriage now. She was putting Jeff's career on the line. "Jeff," I said gently, "this is exactly what I meant." "She's crossing lines." His exhale came heavy. "I know. I don't know how to stop her without making it worse." That night, he came home drained, shoulders slumped. Sally arrived an hour later, breezy as ever, carrying a casserole dish like she was rescuing us all. "Don't worry, sweetheart," she told Jeff, patting his arm as if he were a boy again. "That client wasn't worth your time. I'll make a few calls and open some better doors for you." I watched Jeff's jaw clench. His eyes flicked to me for a fleeting second. He didn't say no. He didn't say yes. Just silence. I knew then, if I didn't act soon, Sally would burn every bridge in his professional world, and he'd let her, because fighting her felt harder than giving in. But this time, I wasn't powerless. The next day, I made an appointment of my own. Not with Sally's parade of advisors, but with a property manager Claire had recommended. We met in a small office downtown. I laid out the basics. 3 apartments, inherited, currently unoccupied. He whistled low. "You're sitting on a goldmine," he said. "If you want, I can start lining up tenants. Quiet, professional, no one needs to know unless you want them to." A thrill ran through me. For the first time, I wasn't just clinging to secrecy. I was using it, strengthening it. "Do it," I told him, as discreetly as possible. When I left, I carried something I hadn't felt in weeks. Momentum. While Sally was busy blundering into Jeff's world, I was quietly building mine. That evening, Jeff came home tense again. He poured himself a drink without a word. I sat at the table waiting. Finally, he said, "My boss asked me not to bring Mom to the office again." Relief flooded me, but I kept my expression measured. "And what did you tell him?" That I understood. He stared into his glass. "She won't like it." "No," I agreed softly. "But maybe it's time she learns there are boundaries." He glanced at me, something unspoken in his eyes. Not trust, not yet, but maybe the beginning of recognition. The faintest hint that he saw what I'd been seeing all along. Just then, the door opened and Sally swept in without knocking, carrying a folder thick with papers. "I have something exciting," she announced, ignoring the tension in the room. "A new investment opportunity for Jeff. I've already penciled in a meeting tomorrow." Jeff froze, caught between us. His lips parted, then closed again. I felt the old instinct rise, to shrink back, to let him handle it. But not this time. "Sally," I said firmly, my voice calm but unyielding, "Jeff won't be going to any meeting you arrange without his approval. And certainly not without mine." The room went still. Sally's eyes snapped to mine, sharp and furious, though her smile stayed plastered on. "Oh, Maria. Always so dramatic." Jeff looked between us torn, but for once, he didn't leap to smooth things over. He just sat, silent, watching. And in that silence, I felt a small victory bloom inside me. Because for the first time, Sally's power didn't feel absolute. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid to take up space. The moment the words left my mouth, not without my approval, I knew Sally wouldn't let it slide. Her painted smile froze, her eyes flickering like storm clouds barely contained. She didn't argue that night, though. That was almost worse. She simply gathered her papers, snapped the folder shut, and said in a tone so sweet it dripped poison, "Well, isn't this interesting? I'll let you two discuss." Then she swept out, leaving the air heavy and brittle. Jeff rubbed his temples. "Maria, did you have to?" "Yes," I said, sharper than I intended. Then softening, "Jeff, she's crossing into everything. Your job, our finances, our marriage. It can't keep going like this." He didn't answer. Just sat there, staring at the untouched dinner. That silence followed us through the night like a shadow. The next morning, Sally struck. It started with a phone call. Not to me, of course not. To Jeff's boss. I didn't know the details then, only that Jeff came home looking pale and furious. She called him, he muttered, pacing the living room. Told him she could smooth things over about the client who walked out. Offered to make introductions. As if I can't manage my own career. I felt both fury and vindication. "Jeff, this is exactly what I've been warning." "I know," he snapped, then caught himself. His shoulders sagged. "I know, Maria. I don't know how to rein her in. Every time I try, she twists it until I feel like the ungrateful son." He sank onto the couch, face in his hands. My heart ached for him, even as my anger burned hotter. Sally wasn't just meddling. She was actively undermining him. And then came the second blow. The following afternoon, I found her waiting in our driveway. She leaned against her car, arms folded, lips pursed. "We need to talk," she said coolly. I braced myself. "About what?" "About last night." Her voice was low, clipped. "You embarrassed me in front of my son. You put ideas in his head, ideas that don't belong there. A wife should support, not divide." The nerve. My pulse raced, but I forced my tone calm. "I didn't divide anything, Sally. I simply set a boundary. Jeff's career is his, not yours." Her eyes narrowed. "And what career are you protecting exactly?" "He's floundering. Without me, he'd be." "Without you," I cut in, voice firmer, "he might finally stand on his own." For a moment, shock flashed across her face, quickly replaced by cold disdain. "You think you're clever, Maria," she hissed. "But I see right through you. The secrecy. The evasions. Don't think I haven't noticed." My chest tightened. Did she know? Had she pieced together the apartments? I kept my expression even. "What you see is a wife who loves her husband. That's all." Her smile returned, sharp as glass. "We'll see how long that lasts." And with that, she slipped into her car and drove off, leaving me trembling in the driveway. That night, Jeff was quiet again. He barely touched dinner, distracted, weighed down. Finally, he said, "Mom wants to host us for Sunday dinner. Just the three of us." My fork clinked against the plate. "Jeff, please, Maria. Just come. Maybe if we all sit down together, it'll settle things." I wanted to laugh at the absurdity of it, but the look in his eyes stopped me. He was desperate, tired of being pulled between us. So I nodded slowly. "Fine. Sunday dinner." But in my gut, I knew exactly what it meant. This wasn't going to be a dinner. It was going to be a showdown. And I had to decide if I was ready to reveal just how much I'd been holding back. Because Sally wasn't bluffing anymore. She was circling, sniffing for blood. And if I didn't strike first, she'd tear everything open on her terms. The days leading up to Sunday stretched thin and heavy, like a storm waiting to break. Jeff tried to act normal, but I could see the weight on him. He came home late from work, distracted, his conversations short. And whenever I mentioned Sally, he flinched, as if her name alone might spark another argument. I didn't push. Not this time. Instead, I prepared. On Friday, I met Claire for coffee. I told her everything. Sally's stunt at Jeff's office, the confrontation in the driveway, the looming dinner. Claire listened, her expression equal parts fury and concern. "She's escalating," she said finally. "She knows she's losing control over Jeff, and she'll try to tighten her grip. Don't underestimate her." I sighed, tracing the rim of my mug. "I don't want a war, Claire. I just want space. For Jeff and me. For us to breathe without her choking every decision." And you'll get it, Claire said firmly. But only if you stand your ground. This dinner? It's not about food. It's a test. She'll provoke you, try to make you look unstable or ungrateful. Don't take the bait. Stay calm. Control the narrative. Her words lingered with me all weekend. Control the narrative. By Sunday afternoon, I had rehearsed responses in my head. Gentle, firm, measured. No cracks for Sally to wedge herself into. Jeff dressed in silence that evening, straightening his tie twice before finally meeting my eyes. Maria, he said carefully, please, let's not turn this into another fight. If we can just get through dinner. I touched his arm. I don't want to fight, Jeff. But I won't sit there like a child while she dictates our lives. He swallowed, then nodded. Fair. The drive to Sally's house was quiet. The late summer sun painted the sky in golds and pinks, but inside the car, the air was taut. When we pulled into her driveway, my stomach tightened. Her house loomed like a fortress, immaculate lawn, gleaming windows, not a blade of grass out of place. Control, embodied in brick and mortar. She greeted us at the door, smiling too widely. My darlings. Come in, come in. The dining table was already set, candles flickering, roast chicken perfuming the air. It looked warm, welcoming. But beneath the glow, I sensed the performance. Dinner began politely enough. Small talk about Jeff's work, about the weather. I played along, watching Sally carefully. She was waiting, circling. Finally, as she poured Jeff a second glass of wine, she said casually, So, Maria, what do you do with your days now that you're married? Must be nice, not having to worry about bills or responsibilities. The jab was subtle, but sharp. I smiled lightly. I manage plenty, Sally. Household responsibilities. Our future. More than enough to keep me busy. Her eyes glinted. Oh, I'm sure. Though I do worry, Jeff. Without proper oversight, money tends to slip away. Maybe we should revisit the idea of a prenuptial arrangement. Just to safeguard the family. There it was. The opening shot. Jeff's fork froze midair. His eyes darted to me. My pulse hammered, but I kept my voice steady. Sally, with respect, Jeff and I make our financial decisions together. And our marriage isn't a business contract. It's a partnership. Her smile tightened. Of course. But you'll forgive me for being concerned. After all, I've built stability for this family for decades. I'd hate to see it squandered. The implication was clear. She didn't trust me. I placed my fork down, meeting her gaze head-on. Jeff and I value your concern, but our marriage is ours to shape. We don't need paperwork or outside approval to validate it. Jeff cleared his throat, shifting uncomfortably. Mom, maybe we can drop it. But Sally wasn't finished. She leaned forward, her voice low, almost conspiratorial. Maria, dear, women who hide things from their husbands often find it comes back to haunt them. Secrets have a way of surfacing. My breath caught. Was this it? Had she discovered the apartments? Or was it another of her games, bluffing to see if I'd crack? I forced my features neutral, though my insides churned. Every marriage has its private rhythms, Sally. That doesn't mean it's built on secrets. Jeff and I are honest with each other. Jeff looked between us, suspicion flickering briefly in his eyes before he masked it. Sally reclined, sipping her wine, satisfaction tugging at her lips. She hadn't exposed me, not yet. But she'd planted the seed. The rest of dinner blurred, a tightrope walk of polite exchanges, veiled barbs, and tense silences. By the time we left, Jeff was pale, exhausted, barely speaking. In the car, I reached for his hand. Jeff, I know tonight was hard, but you have to see, she's pushing too far. He didn't pull away, but he didn't squeeze back either. Just stared out the windshield, lost in thought. And in that silence, I realized something chilling. Sally didn't need to expose my secret tonight. She only needed to make Jeff doubt that I had one. And that might be enough to unravel everything.